Whoa, we're live.
Hey, Matt, dude, do do you know where Priscilla is? Because I need hair and makeup like right now. Like I need somebody to take care of this because this does not do anything on its own.
Yeah, I only know how to do one kind of hairstyle, so I can't help you.
Straight up
Yeah,
Mohawk. It's like a unicorn on your
yeah.
head.
Unicorn. There's a lot of unicorn. Like, I think unicorn pretty soon is going to become a buzzword because I think it's being used too much.
It's a big pull in the tent.
Yeah,
We got to get some granularity on this unicorn that's growing on top of your head.
yeah. Unicorn, shark fin depends
Ooh,
on
sure.
how you look at it.
That's awesome.
So antenna for better reception. My dad calls it a boot cleaner. It's good for cleaning the boots off.
Hey, you got to get in there. It's. I mean, everybody's got a fetish. I'm not going to fetish shame. Your dad's thing. That's cool, man. It's weird, but okay.
Oh,
Weird family
so
discussions.
family taco around the fire.
Yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know, I have no voice apparently. There we go. That doesn't help at all.
No,
Uh,
no, it's worse actually.
it is, but I've got my good friend Zac Keller here today. What's up, Zac?
Hey, buddy,
How you doing, man?
living the dream. Good to be on the old podcast with the Mohawk.
Yeah, this is the live Sunday edition. This is the chill. I mean, we were at dinner what 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. Sitting around there after our little South by Southwest marathon of getting shotgun in the face with chaotic energy. Yeah, that was super pleasant.
South by Southwest is a weird. It's different. This is the first year we've been.
Yeah, yeah. It was the
Different.
first time for me too.
Yeah, it's like it's not. I don't think you can just call it a conference, but you can't call it a festival either. It's like this weird morph.
Yeah, it's you get the energy of people that are just there to party and drunk and whatever other pharmaceutical enhancements they may be partaking in. Then you have people that are there to connect, learn something, and do everything at the same time, but you don't know. So it's like Russian roulette. Like you walk into a meeting, you're like, "Hey, I'm Zac. Hey, good to meet you." Blah blah blah. Hey, Matt. Oh, hey, you're doing this over here. That's fantastic. Oh, hey. Oh my God, you're shithouse drunk. Pardon my French, but
Well,
it's a wild ride. There's no unpacking it.
and then you walk into the room next over, or that same room, and there's like two billionaires in there just hanging
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
You,
Two
you,
billionaires talking about the future of robotics and
yeah.
drone warfare. You're like, oh, you'd have a great conversation over here, and then turn around and be like, do we need to call EMS because I don't think she's getting up.
I did. I did learn that South by Southwest tip is get in line early for I think there's an Austin tip for Voodoo Donuts.
Interesting. Well,
Voodoo Donuts was a long line.
well, as long as it's just a tip, then I think that you're good with the donuts.
I think so too. Uh, we started having this conversation about potatoes versus sweet potatoes and what was better.
The great potato.
The Great Potato Wars of 2022.
Yeah. The getting into a conversation about the value of sweet potatoes versus potatoes, it pretty much sums up I think a lot of people's mentality of like how do you make a decision. I got into an internet troll debate with somebody who's just a very nasty little person, and the whole time I'm like, all right, bro, I mean, you want to pick the right potato lexicon here because that you, you sound like a douche. I mean, it's cool, but you're fighting online for what? Internet points? That's cool. It's just why waste your time? Why waste your energy? Doesn't make
I
sense
feel
to me.
like, I feel like it used to be. It's a huge thing for like Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and stuff. But I'm starting to see more and more of those trolls migrating to LinkedIn, which wasn't a thing really before.
Yeah,
Um,
but here's the thing. Like, We've been talking about this. That same dinner where we were joking about potatoes was we were getting into this idea of collaboration versus competition.
Yeah.
And then you get these people that it's awesome that you're the subject matter expert in whatever field, whatever vertical, and awesome. A lot of us are just here to learn. We're here to communicate, and we don't understand. And I'll nerd out, and we'll go off on some tangent talking about whatever. You realize that you've left somebody behind in the conversation. Like you're standing around at a group at South by Southwest, and we're sitting here talking about Bitcoin and national security and whatever. And at the end of it, there's somebody standing next to you who's like, "Bro, is that so? That's cryptocurrency." And you're like, "Yeah, hey, okay. So how do we change that language?" And I think just being cognizant of it, it's an imperative, man. I'm glad you're doing it. You do a good job of it.
Of having great hair or
Well,
changing
that
conversation.
too, but no, but like find something to talk about that people can relate to, and finding that commonality, because even in these little verticals, these like locked in, like pick something,
Yeah.
we'll call it satellites. If that is your bread and butter and you are solving like how to do low Earth orbit, something or another, that's awesome. But you have to realize decision makers or investors or end users may not have that expertise or understand that messaging and communication. So when we get together, this idea of like, how do we collaborate better? And it's continuously finding the different mechanisms of language and of how to connect different things and different ideas. I think that's really important. So anyway, neither
Uh,
here nor there. We had a
I was gonna say, yeah, I like that because we get so serious all the time. That's what I faced when I was still in the government was like, you can't talk that way on your podcasts and videos. Like, we got to be serious. We're serious business. But it's how people connect. It's how you and I connected.
yeah.
It was the weirdest phone call I ever got at the time.
You
Uh,
tell them.
well, I will, but first, if you're there, let us know you're watching. We got one friend of our mutual friend of ours, Joy Schaumburg, watching right now.
Oh boy. Oh joy.
She says, two of my favorite humans, less talk, more torque.
There you go. Yeah, Boone motto right there.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah. It's part of the GSD motto, like how do you get things done? And at the end of the day, it's finding that communication and that language. So
Yeah.
it's important. We can all connect with things, and like you have all these people that are in the world that we live in right now, right? Let's think about it. We have everything's in platforms, right? We have platforms of defense. We have platforms for communicating, like TikTok or like YouTube or Defense One or anything. We have all these platforms, and we're entering an era that things are starting to migrate into Web3, which is a whole brave new world of decentralization and where these things are going to connect. And the hardest part that I think a lot of people are going to realize is what is my intention of my company? Like, do I want to have everything? Do I want to take everything and get all the eyes on me, or do I want to share and collaborate? It's
Mhm.
almost a shift in mentality when we go towards this Web3 experience and Web3 life. And less talk, more torque is exactly that. It's finding the right language. It's effective and efficient communication of how we're going to connect with things in people. Like if I was to say to you, Matt, hey man, let's have a cool conversation about DAOs and cryptocurrency and delineated ledgers and the future of monetary policy. And you're like, cool. What are you talking about, bro? I'm like, all right, well, let me break it down for you. Could we have a conversation talking about like, do you know like what's a good way to store money? Like, what's money to you? Like, is it
Mhm.
the ability to buy something? Is it the ability to protect your interest? What is that value? And then how do you find those things? Those things make sense. But if you get all, again, not naming that person, but I want to. But if you get all ivory tower on the issue and you say, hey, look, well, you're not using this, you're just a plebeian, blah, blah, blah. Great. You've just isolated yourself. It's about community. It's about connection. It's about communication. And you have to understand the more that we learn, we're never going to understand everything or anything. So it's using each other's resources of how do we connect? How do we share messaging? And I
Well,
think that's getting lost.
yeah, and I want to pull that thread because I think get so stuck as a society of like only being around with people that agree with you. I actually love being around people that disagree with me
Yeah.
because we have some of the best conversations, and they may get heated, they may, but more often than not, that disagreement or confusion turns into one of us learning something that the other didn't know. And if you go in with the right mindset, you can go in like your internet troll and just kind of clash. But I think the successful organizations, people, groups, teams, wherever, they're getting more of that and diversity of thought. Where he's like, no, like in diversity of thought, people are like, oh, let's just get some artists and scientists and people that think differently. Yes, I want to get people that
Bingo.
think against each other too. Like if I have something new I'm creating, I will often tease it to someone I know doesn't like me because they're going to give me their honest feedback.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just like you are highlighting the need for what's happening, that we're all in this one bin right now, like you're left or you're right, or you're for Ukraine, or you're promoting misinformation or whatever. Here's the catch: you don't have to label everything. And at some point, like, to actually create and shape new ideas, on be creative, and to actually create a new world of utopian design, it involves having something challenge you. If you have the same information and you have the same homogenous thought around you all the time, what are you going to get? You're going to get the same thing. You're going to get pushed. That Overton window politically is going to keep pushing you in one direction. If we have somebody who's like violently thinks differently about politics, or they think different about the future, awesome. Let's have that discourse. Let's have that conversation. And it's just to be inclusive in ideas of difference. It's not shutting people down. It's not just like crushing people. There's enough of that going around. It's saying like, hey, you have to think one thing, you have to think this thing. Okay, great. And you know what? If you want to bury your head at the end of the day because it's too much for you, awesome. I get it. That's some people, that's their life. But there's a lot of people out there that want to be creators and want to know, that be like, hey, is it okay that I actually have a thought? I'm not sure how to talk about something, but if I say something, I don't want to get crushed, even if it's wrong. And be like, hey man, hey Zach, you sound like a baked potato when you're talking about complex theory and blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh cool. Well, you could have just told me like, hey, why don't you check this out and blah 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 blah. It makes sense. It's just you have to just change the tonality and say like, hey man, I'm just trying to help you, because guess what? At the end of the day, I don't know everything. You don't know everything. Certainly, you could be the expert in whatever field this is, but you have a totally different life experience. You know, me and Priscilla were having this conversation about women, their life, like just how they go through life, and they get like, men in general, and this is, take it for what it is, but misogynistically or whatever, inadvertently, we're like, hey, well, let's get out of the way. Yeah, let's have the conversation here. Yeah, but they have a unique insight and perspective that I want to hear, because that's going to help frame the mosaic of the conversation to help me make a better decision. So the more diversity of thought, like your background, wherever it comes from, is awesome. I don't want the same thing. I don't want the same guys telling me like, oh, well, here's the finite and definite thing. We should all think alike. Kumbaya. At the end of the day, man, like, dude, we get that, and there's nothing creative. So let me ask you this: if pulling on that thread, if we start following down this, like we're all thinking the same thing, what happens if we can automate that entire thought process? What happens to the human race? What happens to humanity if we're all following the same narrative? We're all just doing along and following instead of challenging each other and thinking outside the box in a salon-esque environment. What happens? We replace ourselves, and then we lose the function to actually have a conversation, to be creative, to create loving projects, to create real connections in people. That's a travesty in my opinion. But what do I know? I don't know anything. So
And that's where I think it's key is all of us know what we know and don't know what we don't know. And like you just said, it's okay to not to know, and it's okay to share your opinion of what you do know, as long as you're open and accept the things you don't know.
yeah.
And
But even challenge like your own belief structures. Like you're like, no, it's absolutely right that that I need to support. Ooh, we're gonna take a gamble here, okay? All right, you ready for this?
let's go.
All right. So Ukraine. Oh God. Oh boy. So I'm 100% for Ukraine and everything else. Okay, cool. Why? Well, because big country bad is invading little country. That you can't have that. Yeah, fundamentally I agree. But why are you supporting it? Okay, that I agree with. But are we supporting the government? Are you supporting the people? Are you supporting the idea of freedom of life or versus control and authoritarian thought? What are you supporting? Well, I don't know. I mean, I just know that they invaded. Okay. Well, let's think about that. Why did they invade? Well, back in 2014, they said that, hey, we don't want this country to become a member of NATO. And if you guys would just say, hey, that's not an option, then we're cool. And then we could shut off this region. Interesting. Oopsie doodle. Well, here we are, like stumbling into it and just getting into this weird narrative control. You just have to be able to have questions. And with censorship and everything else, and saying it's misinformation, I'm just saying, just think. It's the ability to think. Just ask questions. I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm just saying, why don't we think about it? Why don't we think about what direction we're going and why are we going that direction?
Well,
And
and I think it's important to ask the question and sometimes not know the answer immediately. So I recently put a post on about not using Google, about
yeah,
sometimes don't Google it. Like because you, like you said, that misinformation, you will get whatever answer you're looking for.
yeah,
Whatever you want, you will find online. So to encourage that thought, to encourage that asking questions, don't expect to just get an immediate answer or believe the first answer you hear. Ask more questions, learn where the sources are coming from, like you said, and see. Like that's why I don't watch any of the news.
yeah,
I pull my own information from multiple outlets, and then
yeah.
we can make our own. That's why I also vote independently, because there's no right or
How dare
wrong left
you?
because of what I know, right? How dare I not be blue or red
Yeah.
or elephants or donkeys? But maybe I like turtles that day. I don't know.
Unicorns.
Exactly. If there was a unicorn political party, what would that political party look like?
We're going to be the oddball outliers. We're classically liberal libertarians with a centrist viewpoint of totality. I don't care whatever your thought process is. I'm doing my own thing. There you go.
I uh, I have a friend who has a company called Subtle Skills, and he specializes in facial analysis and like being able to like know people how they interact based on their facial features. When I met him, based on that whole thing you just said of kind of hearing everything and then doing what you're gonna do anyway, that unicorn way.
Yeah.
That's how he described me. On stage, he pulled me up and he said, "The way your ears are, the way they kind of stick out means that you hear everyone's opinion and then you do whatever the heck you want anyway." I was
Yeah.
like, "That's accurate." Yeah. Yeah,
Well, you
kind of.
remember, like, like everything we're discussing is not a new thing. I mean, like go
Right.
back to Socrates, like the idea of like, hey, you know what the sign of somebody of critical thinking and intelligent person is the ability to entertain an idea and either accept it or reject it, whether you agree with it or not. And if it runs contrary to your own beliefs, we're losing that because it's just easier to just accept what people say or just say like, well, here's my narrative control. I'm going to plug into blank news outlet and well, this is the official source. So this is the official thing that I should trust. Neat. Well, cool. Let's talk about it. Like what's the problem with thinking? The problem with thinking is that you can come to different conclusions that don't align with people's power and values. And when you understand the power dynamic of people and structures and organizations and how they align, that's something that you just need to be aware of. And in seemingly casual conversations, we don't even realize how influenced we are by the things closest to us, the people that we associate with, the things that we consume. Like if I'm going to go read Fox News every day or I'm going to go read Pravda every day, I'm going to have a shaped opinion about specific issues because I keep going to the same source. Whereas diversity of thought, if I'd be like, hey, I'm going to go read Pravda, then I'm going to go hop on Bongino Report, then I'm going to go swing by MSNBC, then I'm going to go dabble at Sky News, and then I'm going to go over to this little French outpost and see what they're talking about. And then I'm going to hop on, the Daily Wire because I'm trying to get to the core of what is just the information at this point. Like what's even happening in without the narrative. Like, all this fluff in talk, in spin, it's great, but I don't think people realize how much it actually messes with our belief structures and what are we creating. So it's just the freedom to think, and I think that's a very American thing and something that's worth defending. It's just our ability to connect. So
Well, and I want to pull it and go down a different rabbit hole with that. Is I don't think people in the work. So you see this in the workplace. We get so busy, and we get so focused on making ourselves busy that we're not giving ourselves freedom to think. We're not giving us the free space. So
yeah,
it's more than just the freedom to think, it's giving yourself time to think and actually time to process. And instead of we're just like, oh, busy, 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 it'll make me better. It means I'm going to be awesome. All these things if I'm busy or if I'm all this stuff. But
I filled up my calendar. Hooray!
yeah, I did. I did my whole 40 hours. Like, yay. First of all, anyone that only works 40 hours a week, that's crazy concept to me.
Yeah.
It's like oh, my new Catalyst campus job. They're like, oh, you got this new full time job. I was like, full time?
Yeah.
This is like a fourth of my week.
Efficient and effective. That's it.
Yep. And that's where I think that freedom to think and also giving yourselves the free space to think.
I don't remember what book it came from, but I remember reading something a couple years back. It was talking about Warren Buffett and like his calendar and like how most of it like was just white space for him to digest and think and have actual communication stuff instead of just saying like, oh, well, I need to be hyper organized. I need to have this conversation here, this conversation here, this conversation here. No, in his opinion, to stop back, analyze, process, and to secure that time to actually digest and to keep that perspective is interesting to me. A lot of people don't do it. A lot of people are like, hey man, I got to log in. I got to show my hours. Like, if you do anything with the government, I have to, go account for here's what I did today. I did 3.5 hours of business outreach for X client and blah, 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 blah. And okay, but why? Because they're trying to qualitatively put a metric of performance and saying that, hey, our value and return on investment is saying that the time capital used and our expense of hiring you is worthwhile and it's justified. And the only way we can do that is to track your time. In reality, though, like me and you, like you're like, cool. Like, here's a project. What's the mission? And I'm like, Matt, I need you to connect us with the Marine Corps, the MIG folks. And I need you to link that up and set up a meeting for this client. Can you do that? And you're like, cool. Now, in that world, we're going to go say that takes X amount of hours and time. And so, like, here's my 20 hours of billable because that's the metric of performance. In reality, we both know that's just like, okay, cool. Let me shoot him an email, find a time, hop online. We'll set up a call and I'll explain the situation and I'll be done in 30 minutes. And we're going to call that a week worth of work. It's a crazy thing, but it's true. And it's being efficient at what you do. And then it's freeing that time up. But so you almost have to bifurcate and play both sides. You have to, how do I protect my workspace to say, and since Joy is online, how do I show that, hey, we're working at this? Yeah. But at the same time, if you're getting stuff done, then who cares? Nobody cares. And then it shows, well, why are we still using the same system? It begs bigger questions because, oh, hey, guess what? Just like you said, we have time to think and think about these questions that we're asking.
Well, and I'll peel that one onion layer back. Now we got to add onions to the potatoes. It's, I know, concept. Sounds tasty. Now I'm hungry. But peeling that one layer back of
sweet potato mash now.
It may only take you half an hour or an hour to do that thing because you've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Or someone that doesn't know it. And that's what I hate the whole entrepreneur side of the space that I've jumped into the last year is everyone like tries to quantitate your value based on your hourly rate or this or that. And it's like, but what takes me an hour would have taken you a week.
Yeah.
So why are you not willing to pay me that time to take your salary for a week?
But it only took you 30 minutes. And then I'm going to justify that I'm only going to pay you for 30 minutes work.
Yeah. It's like, it took me 36 years actually to do that.
Yeah.
Because I have the relationships.
You're not looking at the bigger potato.
Bigger potato.
We have to look at the whole potato here. When we're peeling back that first layer of potato, you don't realize that it took you in your years of experience and refinement to get that skill set of peeling the potato before you started baking it, to know how to cube it, to get that experience. That is something that has to be valued. And I think that's a good point of shifting. What is the value of having the brain of the individual as part of the team instead of what are you doing for your hourly metric work? I like where your head's at, man.
Yeah. I mean, my head is shaped like a potato, so that helps.
But you're at the pointy end of the potato. Forget the spear. You're a spear potato.
It's the sprouts. I've been kept in the dark, so it's starting to grow out.
Oh, there's a mushroom joke in here.
For anyone that's still watching this, thank you. There's like 5 or 6 people on LinkedIn still. Thanks. I see a comment from James. He's liking our conversation. Thanks, James. You're an awesome dude. Lindy says potato salad sounds good tonight.
It does, man.
So that's a good one. Oh, and that's as silly as the whole like sweet potato thing sounds. It really is that thing we're talking about of having that different perspective. And whether you like potatoes or sweet potatoes, you're not wrong. That's just your perspective.
Yeah.
And that's where we get so, as a society, you see so often we get so stuck in like, you are wrong, you are wrong. It's like, no, I think sweet potatoes just taste better or potatoes taste better. Mm-hmm. But we're so like you said earlier, pitting against each other instead of learning from each other and trying that sweet potato pie or the potato French fries or the sweet potato French fries.
And then, but that you also remember the dinner. You have to have a sense of humor about the whole thing, because if you're taking yourself too seriously, you're just going to get lost in the process.
Yes. And then that was.
You're going to screw up the order anyway. I'm going to end up with rosemary fries, and I'll be like, I'm pretty sure I asked for sweet potatoes, but okay, here we are.
Yeah, but they did make up for it and gave you only one water to drink.
Yeah, and it was still water instead of the mineral water. So good, so good. You know, it's an interesting thing, though. There is a lot of heavy things coming in the near future, in my perspective. Where the world's going, we can't stop it. We have, we'll call it a near peer actor that is, they have a lot of programs that could really, really hurt you and me, and even the people that just want to be a potato and sit in the backyard and just, like, hey, I just want to work at Walmart. Cool. Don't hate you. Enjoy the post office, whatever. But at the end of the day, saying and remaining ignorant to what's going on, at least being aware of like who's driving you and who's driving that control, because the conversation coming, we have allies on our side. We have our own little problem set, but we definitely have a nation state and independent individuals that they're trying to do it for their own gain. They're trying to maneuver the country. They're trying to destroy everything that could be great. This idea of free conversation is literally at stake. So I know, we were talking before we came online about Jason Lowry, and that man has a big brain, big potato brain. But I really like his perspective and his lens on how are we securing our future, and where do we look from a monetary side of really what is that value that we're looking for in the future. The weapon systems of defense and shields and swords that we're going to have with military, with potato shavers, with economic conversations of policy and everything else. I think fundamentally people will need to start becoming more aware of cryptocurrency, for one, just to understand what it is. Like, first and foremost, like, what is a blockchain? Is that thing still around? Yeah, it's like the internet, it's still around. But really getting at least a basic education. Some of the conversations we've been having, it's like, it's no kidding. How do we educate people, and how do we protect those Americans? How do we protect our identity? How do we protect the infrastructure that we have now, and then create those bridges, or arcs in this case, to get people into this decentralized and better posture for future defense? And I think it's going to be an important thing, and it's going to come back to communication. It's going to come back to you sitting down with people, and they're going to be talking about robots, or, hey, we have this new super cool AI that can automate this. Cool. It's one of the conversations that's not going to come out of that is, well, what about displacement of jobs? If this takes all the white collar jobs, if I have an AI that can do all your legal processing and with a push of a button, what's that going to do for the paralegal system? Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, how do we get creative with that? How do we get people thinking and communicating and talking about creativity, about creating new things in this Web3 world? How do we create new systems? How do we educate each other about artists? How do we educate people about communicating with loved ones instead of getting frustrating and having a troll potato spew out of your mouth onto the internet and thinking that you're right in your little ivory tower? Doesn't work. It doesn't work for living with tribes. It doesn't work with understanding one another. And I think that the more we communicate, the better off we're going to be. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know if I lost you there, but
No, not at all. I agree, because I think there are so many ways of communication. I mean, everything I've been doing the last couple of years is very been heavy on the conversation side, and having those conversations, different communications in different ways than you're normally used to. And that alone threatens people. That alone threatens, like, well, why are we doing video now? Why aren't we reading articles still? Well, one of the best values of video is you can truly understand someone's opinion better. And because there's tone, there's all the like, how many times have you emailed someone or texted someone and they got offended because there was no tone, and so they didn't know what you actually meant? And it's happened to everybody. Happens to me every day because I vomit when I start texting. Usually, you ask me what color my favorite color is, and I'll tell you the history of my first crayon. And so and that's why I love videos, because you get to see more of that piece. What were you saying?
What was it? 55% of communication is body language, 38% is tonality, and 7% is the actual words.
Yeah,
That my one of those great quotes and cliches of, people they're going to have no idea how or what you said, but they are going to absolutely remember how you made them feel. And that's because of how our brains work. We process that reptilian complex of, can I live with it? Is it an ally? Is it a friend? Is it a foe? Is it a mating? That is the first thing. And then we're still primal of how we process information before we even get to those logic things. And to understand that we are my patterns and tones, like if I slow it down and I say to you, this is serious. We're talking World War III. We're talking the change and destruction of the US dollar. We're talking a whole new world that's based around a digital currency or asset to store your value. And how are we going to create jobs? See, you dialed in because I slowed down the pace, I changed my tone, and I delivered the message. And you're like, oh, wait, hey, my brain's telling me pay attention. And those are the kinds of things that we need to be more aware of for our little tribes, wherever they may be in defense or industry or I don't know, working Abercrombie and Finch, wearing potato sacks. So it's the same way. It boils down to the communication of connecting, and it's simple in its elegant design, but it's massively complex. And there's no static position in this. I'm changing. You're learning new things every day. I'm learning new things every day, and so is everybody else. So we can't say that, oh, well, that guy's only good at this. That's just not the true value of that person or their contribution. You have to continuously rediscover each other. So,
well,
wow.
I like that piece, because you think of like friends or family. However, you knew someone in at that point of your life, most of the time, that's how they'll forever see you,
Yeah.
because they don't take the time to relearn who you've become, what you've changed into. And that's why the whole concept of like a high school reunion is crazy to me. And well, obviously it's been 20 freaking years. If you haven't changed, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Like, or you see people like, man, you've gained weight or lost weight since I saw you. I was like, that's 20 years ago.
The COVID 40. Oh, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. And so
Should I
it's
buy stock in Doritos?
no toilet paper. Buy all the stock in toilet
Toilet
paper.
paper. My bad. Oh,
We know that.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
and
Rookie.
potato salad too, because it's that concept, like you're saying, of like constantly relearning things and constantly relearning people, to take the time without feeling like, oh, I have to learn this, oh, I have to do this, because you get so stuck in your way. Or not everyone does. A lot of people just kind of choose to, and they're happy with that. And whatever works for them, great. They just keep doing their thing. You and I and people like us are more of the, hey, well, like, what's changed? What question can I ask that tells me what's new?
Yeah.
What is going to happen here? And what is the environment like? What are all the different factors that feed into your favorite type of potato, or your favorite type of Bitcoin, or your favorite type of cryptocurrency? And I just triggered anyone that loves crypto, because they're like, there's only one type of Bitcoin. Exactly. What you say matters. And I understand, and you understand how to trigger people with words.
Yeah.
And I'll use a simple example is I do a lot
Buckle
of
up.
things.
Look at my helmet.
Uh, Recently, I changed my job title in LinkedIn for my role at Catalyst Campus, and I know, and everyone's like, my actual job there for that role is like program manager of OTA. That's what's on roll call at the
Yeah.
job, at the company. I'm like, that's a stupid name.
It's your
First of
billing
all,
account line. It's not what you do.
no. And so when I put it out there on LinkedIn, I was like, it took me like 30 minutes to come up with ecosystem butterfly.
Yeah.
And you could feed into that. Since then, so last time I checked was yesterday. Since I posted that on like Tuesday, I got over 30 messages. What is ecosystem butterfly? Because I triggered their brain because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If I would
You
have
have
said pro,
dissonance.
exactly, if I
Yeah.
would have said program manager, it just would have gone right past them.
Yeah, like, okay, that's boring. Yeah, nobody cares. Oh, okay, you're a drone doing something, blah, blah, blah. That's the thing. People are all creative. And the more that you label, I think it's awesome. I mean, we had the whole emoji conversation, but
Yeah.
ugh, awkward. I'm glad that you landed on this butterfly because one, like, what does that tell me? It tells me you're not taking yourself too seriously. But two, it shows me that you're going to naturally float around and understand the entirety of the ecosystem, and it's going to follow the natural flow and pattern. It's so the representation and symbology is important, and whether we recognize it or not or consciously process it, it does a lot. Like if I put onto you, like pick a title like commercial
Director
strategist,
of strategy.
yeah, corporate strategy. You're like, what does that mean? Nothing. Okay, what if I told you like I'm a freaking like I should change mine to be like, hey, ninja connector that it can somehow break into any circle of relationships and connect you with the right guy at the right place and create an opportunity. Is that something you're like, A, it's a mouthful and we should probably go back to the editing board, but B, it's also accurate. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. So you're just a super connector. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means like, let's say you have a company, right? And you want to do business and you want to figure out how do you fit with this? I'm going to help you figure it out. And that's what I do because I like doing it. It's one of my creative gifts is to think things in a different perspective. It's a dash of, and I'm not kidding, but that autistic little brain of mine going, full hamster wheel spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and figuring out what is the best pathway. You're a butterfly. You figured out that people are going to be like, oh, that's different. I like that. Oh, that's just the prettiest little thing. Hey, Matt, can you tell me what an ecosystem looks like? I'm new. I don't know what to do. And you're like, hey, I got you, little man. And you pick them up and then you take them along on their journey. That's cool. We need more of that. We need more people helping each other. It's collaboration. It's not, hey, oh wait, you're working for them? Oh, you're a catalyst. Okay. That means I need to take market share from you and I need to undercut you at every segment. So how do I do that? Okay. Slowly puts on suppressor, checks around. Excellent. It's just
Your Texan came out as you started describing an ecosystem butterfly. Awesome. That's just great there.
oh no. Oh dang it, Bueller.
Well, and that's why I love our conversations, and that's why we're doing this, and we're probably
Yeah,
going to keep doing it because
for
you
sure.
never know where the conversation goes, and that's why I love the way your brain works. Is that strategy? Is that, and I think we do things we kind of can come up with the same result a different way,
Yeah.
and that's where I think we get along, where a lot of people don't if they don't do things the same way they do.
Yeah.
And that's where you see toxic business environments is they just want everyone that does the same thing they do. They want you to think the same way they do.
Yep.
That's why I mean there's multiple reasons for the great resignation happening right now, and especially in the millennial time frames. But a lot of it is because of people are frustrated. People are they will stand out and speak up for thinking differently, being different, and they'll get pushed back down. So they leave to go find something that allows them to do that.
Yeah. Well, you think about it, how do leaders connect? And that's a really good one. and millennials leaving, the Great Resignation. Let's say you're running a company, whatever size, doesn't matter, but you've created a culture that if there's fear based because it's not aligned, because you're not communicating clearly, because you're not understanding that it's not about how you communicate, it's about how they communicate, how your people communicate, what kind of people. And if you have a diverse one, you have to use different ways to communicate to capture everybody in your team so they understand why. The Simon Sinek thing of, always start with why. It's that important, because these companies are going to create something. And if you can't understand that creative diversity and communication, it's all of that right there. If you don't have that, you are going to fail, because you are not going to translate your vision to a simple, understandable, bite-sized iota that the person at the bottom of the janitor at your company can understand, of why he's there, that he's making a difference, of he's by cleaning the floors and making sure things are tidy so that other person can do their job. You have to show that value in them, to them, so that they can understand, using words they can understand. If you don't, you're in the wrong job and you're not leading. You're just up there at the top drawing a paycheck. So there's a difference between leadership and positional authority. So leadership needs to be embraced like wholeheartedly, and that starts with communication back to the teams.
Yeah, I like it. So we could keep going on forever and ever.
Oh, forever, man.
Because that's what we do. You guys should see our text threads some days.
It's just silly. It's bad.
It's massive. Fantastic. But that's how we learn from each other.
Yeah.
We just have some conversations are valuable, some are ridiculous. And
which is also valuable to make me laugh and have a good day.
Correct. They all provide value, just in different ways. I think we should keep having these random conversations.
Random thoughts about potatoes.
Yeah, potato versus sweet potato. I think that's our.
I love it.
Or potato
Red
salad
versus blue.
Red versus blue. That's the thing. There's a lot of potatoes.
And a lot of potatoes.
Is it a sweet potato or is it a yam? It depends on
How dare you?
I know.
How dare you introduce the yam to the conversation? Awesome. Yeah, bro. Let's keep it up.
Let's do it. Zach, don't hang up. Everyone else, have a great Sunday. We're just having fun conversations. If you want to join us next time, hit me up. Maybe we'll invite you to our potato salad.